Ever wondered what makes TV so powerful in Jamaica? Time to find out. Welcome to Global TV Group 358, where television meets innovation. We're not just about shows, we're about shaping society. In Jamaica, TV keeps you informed, connects diverse voices, and supports democracy. Imagine a Jamaica where broadcasters unite, sharing data and collaborating globally. That's us, a unified voice in the TV industry. Did you know TV advertising is still king? It drives website traffic, boosts brand equity, and powers integrated campaigns. Even in an age of digital, TV stands strong, resilient in tough times. Our global TV deck is your treasure trove of insights and data. With charts, graphs, and success stories, it's your guide to impactful TV advertising. Curious to learn more? Visit our website and see how Global TV Group 358 keeps television at the heart of entertainment in Jamaica. Get ready to binge watch the future.
Oh, thy peace, God of my salvation, because the mouth of the sinful and wicked is so dead. Rastafari. Come with I. Rastaman throw one stone, and it break a bad feeling to all wicked men. Not a people there. Make a man throw one stone, and it bring a bad feeling to all wicked men. Only when man like Marcus Garvey speak, wicked men would I hear. Hear now hear. Instead of that, they only sit aside and rub and cheat, and not press the poor. Make up what I seen to. Make a man throw one stone, and they bring a bad feeling to all wicked men. Oh, what a plan. Make a man throw one stone, and they bring a bad feeling to all wicked men. So, my favorite part, if Rasta make a progressive move, wicked men are red. How they want to see the day them can sell out Rasta and sell it out and sell out Babylon. Big man throw one stone, and they bring a bad feeling to all wicked men. Big man throw one stone, and it bring a bad feeling to all wicked men. If Rasta make a progressive move, wicked men are red. How they want to see the dead and can sell out Rasta and sell out, and sell out Babylon. Just stop on the Friday. You might go and stone, and it bring a bad feeling to all wicked men. Oh, what a black thing, you might go and stone, and it bring a bad feeling to all wicked men. You have eyes to see, let him see. You have ears to hear, let him hear. What a prophet must say. President Mandela was in prison for 20 odd years. And he leave from the prison and take the seat of the president. Stone one. Big man throw one stone, and it bring a bad feeling to all wicked men. Oh, what's a black big man throw one stone, and it bring a bad feeling to all wicked men. Rasta man throw one stone, and it bring a bad feeling to all wicked men.
good morning, and welcome to Global TV. Thank you all for joining us this morning. I don't know if I'm not seeing them enough or Jamaica journalists are not enough over the country investigating and bringing the information to us out in Wonderland, as they own that job for themselves, which vloggers tend to seem to do it better than them sometimes. But Dean Jackson Miller went out in the western side of Jamaica, in the ravished area, and she would have seen something that frustrated her, made her angry, to the point where Dean Jackson Miller, for the first time I've seen in a government press briefing, and I beg of you to let's listen this morning. If you have not watched the government press briefing yesterday, which I know many of you become tired of it now because we're not getting any solution or any help out of it. Morning, everybody. One big good morning. Oh, morning. We're not getting any solution or any help out of it. And Dean Jackson Miller asked what I thought yesterday were some very important questions. Questions which make the government became flustered, agitated, defensive, and if you can read the body language of anger, you would also see the anger on the government as well. And we want to go straight to that question and answer session that took place at Jamaica House yesterday. Because Dana Morris Dixon said something which I told you they will be saying. Just stick with me here this morning, globalists, and like and share the live for me, please. I know when they speak, it agitates you, you get wind up, you get switched off. It's important at a time like now that we listen to the utterance, the lies, the promises, the nothing that is coming from the government. We saw Nikita Burchell broke down yesterday at the opposition press conference. We saw Ainsley Hale making a video breaking down as well. Jamaica Labour Party supporters are of the view that it's playing politics. I mean, even cry, we're not even allowed to cry of the dismal effects. We're not allowed to cry of the effects and the consequences of the disaster. We're not allowed to cry of the dismal and deplorable lack of leadership from the government, which started on the day when Juliet Holness shut down Parliament to ask about questions which was critical to the upcoming storm. Land slippage and payment of contractors. And we see this become a big problem. They told us they were prepared for the storm. But we, the people of Jamaica, had no input, no say. We couldn't get to ask any question. We have been starved as funding. We didn't elect JLP. We elect 63 MPs across the country. We didn't elect just a government. We also elect an opposition to play a role in these critical times. But the government has total control. And then JLP supporters, you know, those from the Chani kingdom over there and those from Holness's kingdom, nobody wants you to talk on Facebook. Nobody wants you to hold the government accountable. Everybody wants us to just watch the people suffer, while the government is amassing wealth out of this. Have anyone asked Babsy Grange, who will pick up the finances for the logistics of all these concerts that you're organizing in America, in Britain, in Jamaica, in Canada, wherever Babsy can get a space to hitch at the moment to have a concert to bring money into Jamaica? Who pays for the logistics of these concerts? Isn't it a question that we should be asking? Given that they're so disgraceful to want to have a concert when people are sitting on the roadway begging for food and water. And to all of you entertainers that have agreed to participate in these disgraceful celebration of the Prime Minister's sacrifice, shame on you. Shame on you. You have lost your moral and your human feeling. Shame on you. Because a lot of you people jumping up. For us St. Elizabeth people, this is not about like, clicks, or views. For us St. Elizabeth people, this is not about like, click, or views, or life, or property, or community, or family heritage, or generational wealth. Everything is on the line for us here. So it's not for most of you vloggers and so-called influencers, which take this for clicks and views and media uptick. For us St. Elizabeth people, it's not about that. It cannot be about that, and it will never be about that. The only thing we save were lives, which we are very, very and most thankful for. That's all we save, lives. So for us, it's not about click and views. Let us go to the question and answer session that took place yesterday.
I see one hand up from before, before we opened. Oh, you're gonna, okay, he's yielding.
Yes.
You're yielding? Okay, all right. He's yielding to
right.
Dion. It is so good.
Yes. Before we get to Miss Jackson, just a reminder, once you ask your questions, the camera operators are asking that you remain standing until your questions have been addressed.
Okay.
Thank you, Dion Jackson, TVJ. Minister.
And I want you to look at the anger and frustration coming from Dion, but also pay careful attention how they were unable to answer her question. And then she stood up again and told them, my question was not answered. The government was angry yesterday. Bear with us, please. It's important that we listen to this question and answer session that took place yesterday, because Dana Morris Dixon said something which I'm going to stop when, at her point, when that come out our mouth.
Billions of dollars are going to be coming in terms of relief. Why have we not yet heard the announcement of an independent oversight committee to include, for instance, private sector, civil society, and opposition members to monitor the expenditure that is going to be done along with regular reporting to Parliament? What we don't want is an Auditor General's report 6 months after the fact.
Whoopsie.
I have a whole heap of questions. I'll just ask a couple and yield to my colleagues.
Sure. All right, please
May I continue?
Give me two more. Yes.
Thank you. Okay, second, I've been hearing everything that's been said. However, the national response, the immediate national response, has been slow and inadequate. The government has been acting as if it didn't know the kind of damage that a Cat 5 would have done. Why have we not seen immediate deployments of mass aid to the affected communities, along with things like immediate erection of warehouses?
If you're tired of failing prop firm challenges, or you just don't want the risk of blowing another one, we've built a system that actually
to hold such aid, immediate erection of mass shelters and or evacuations. And then finally, for now, Why had we not seen an equivalent in-time response to Westmoreland as there was to St. Elizabeth, seeing that that was where the eye of the hurricane made landfall? So it was obvious that there would also have been catastrophic damage there.
All right, thank you. Those are 3 questions. And Dion, it's good to have you here. Not used to having you at my press briefings, but I'm glad to have you. And those are questions you hear floating around, and I'm glad that we get a chance to answer them. You asked about a committee with the funds that are coming in. Yes, we're going to get some insurance payments from CRIF and some of the other policies that we have. I think tomorrow you need to listen out for the Prime Minister's announcements. There will be a body that will be overseeing that reconstruction work. That will happen, and the Prime Minister will name the members of that. There has been discussions, even with the Leader of the Opposition, about whether or not that could be the National Partnership Council. Because remember, we have a National Partnership Council that has the opposition there, that has civil society, has academia, has private sector there. So it's a broad group of individuals that are in that partnership council. So one consideration is to use that partnership council that already exists with all of the key players and partners as that mechanism at the top. And it's going to be broader than just looking at how the funds are being paid. That committee is the one that's going to have to say, how do we build back? You know, we have communities that are close to the sea. What does rebuilding look like? Should we rebuild there? Should we rebuild somewhere else? And so there are big questions that we have to confront with as Jamaica.
Murder! Murder! She just said it. There are communities that live next to the sea. And we have to think about whether we can build back there or we have to build somewhere else.
From CRIF and some of the other policies that we have. I think tomorrow you need to listen out for the Prime Minister's announcements. There will be a body that will be overseeing that reconstruction work. That will happen, and the Prime Minister will name the members of that. There has been discussions, even with the Leader of the Opposition, about whether or not that could be the National Partnership Council. Because remember, we have a National Partnership Council that has the opposition there, that has civil society, has academia, has private sector there. So it's a broad group of individuals that are in that partnership council. So one consideration is to use that partnership council that already exists with all of the key players and partners as that mechanism at the top. And rather than just looking at how the funds are being paid, that committee one is going to have to, how do we build back? You know, we have communities that are close to the sea. What does rebuilding look like? Should we rebuild there? Should we rebuild somewhere else?
Communities next to the sea. Parate. Shut up, bitch. Should we build there? Should we build back there? Or should we build somewhere else? Didn't I tell you that this is something that the government will be telling us pretty soon? Did I not tell you? And to all of the critics who are saying, all of a sudden, we're saying Andrew create this hurricane. No, we not say Andrew create hurricane. We're not too lie and wicked. We say Andrew sign off on the hurricane where the Americans them create. Yes, that's what I said. This is not the first hurricane me blame Andrew Holness and the Americans for. Go back to my show last year, July, the 4th, the 5th, the 7th, all the way up to the 10th. After Hurricane Beryl, I accuse the same lot as well as coming after us to demolish us on the coastline because them find gas in front of it. Yes, I said it that time. And I told you, if you go back and listen to my shows on those days, they will be coming back for us again. They came a year and so later, more deadly. I said they will be telling us it's not safe to we build it. See them out and dribble. Talk here, Dana. Because I want to say how the passes of the JLP yesterday, Dean Jackson Miller angered them to the point where Darrell Vaz run out of the room, saying going wherever, somewhere, I don't know. But Darrell Vaz didn't stay the end of the press conference because Dean Jackson Miller questions yesterday came with kicking.
And so there are big questions that we have to confront with as Jamaica. And the commitment the Prime Minister has made is that there will be an overarching body, whether you use an existing mechanism like the Partnership Council or you use something that's new, a new body, but there will be an oversight body. Now, I left Cabinet early before it finished, not sure where they would have reached on it, but there has been discussions already in Cabinet on that.
They want to free up the coastline. Say they want to free up the coastline. Say they want to free up the coastline. They find petrels down here.
That will happen, and the Prime Minister will name the members of that. There has been discussions, even with the leader of the opposition, about whether or not that could be the National Partnership Council. Because remember, we have a National Partnership Council that has the opposition there, that has civil society, has academia, has private sector there. So it's a broad group of individuals that are in that Partnership Council. So one consideration is to use that Partnership Council that already exists with all of the key players and partners as that mechanism at the top. And it's going to be broader than just looking at how the funds are being paid. That committee is the one that's going to have to say, how do we build back? You know, we have communities that are close to the sea. What does rebuilding look like? Should we rebuild there? Should we rebuild somewhere else? And so there are big questions that we have to confront with as Jamaica. And the commitment the Prime Minister has made is that there will be an overarching body, whether you use an existing mechanism like the Partnership Council or you use something that's new, a new body, but there will be an oversight body. Now, I left Cabinet early before it finished, not sure where they would have reached on it, but there has been discussions already in Cabinet on that one. The second one is about the immediate response being slow. I know Minister Vaz wants to answer, but so you can come forward, Minister Vaz. But as you come, just noting that a Cat 5 is a different category of a hurricane, and the devastation was significant. And as we've seen with many disasters around the world, and we've been looking at disasters around the world, how quickly you get to mobilize. There is always that period of assessing what is happening and getting the aid in. Yesterday, I saw Red Cross, I saw GEM, I saw the World Food Program out, and all of those are coordinated through the Ministry of Labor and Social Security. And so there is a lot more happening, and you hear about the helicopters dropping food. It is, you know, after a hurricane like that, you have to assess and then reestablish new systems to get food out. And I think the team has been doing that. I know Minister Vaz can tell you more about what has happened. And in terms of Westmoreland, everybody is important and everybody is being focused on. The Prime Minister went out for 2 days straight and he went to all of the affected parishes. He went to St. Elizabeth, he went to Westmoreland, he went to Trelawney, he went to St. James, and he also eventually went to Manchester, and he went to Hanover too. So those first 2 days after the hurricane, the Prime Minister made sure to go to all of the most affected parishes. Minister Vaz.
So I'll answer one aspect of it, and Minister Mackenzie will answer the other. There is a committee that has been named with Senator Keith Duncan and Minister Audrey Marks to coordinate with private sector. That has been going on in earnest all weekend. There is warehouse spacing that has been found in Montego Bay. There's warehouse spacing that has been found outside of what the government apparatus has. I would say probably we are probably up to 300,000 square feet of additional warehousing that is going to be needed, because we're going to be staging from Montego Bay and Kingston, because that's where the two international airports are. I want to remind you who asked the question, and I want to remind Jamaica, tomorrow will be 6 days, because the hurricane hit on a Tuesday. So 6 days is where we are now. And I can say to you that we have not only engaged the full private sector, and they are fully supported with their assets, with their money, and with their expertise, on top of which all of the international organizations and charities who have done this kind of thing all over the world are also at the table. We met for hours on Saturday, and they have done an assessment as to where we are and what we need to do. We cannot bypass the government systems and structures that are in place, but we can take advice and we can use them, and we are intending to do that. You will see a huge improvement this week, and you will see getting better every day going forward. This government is committed, this government is competent to deal with it, and we know our limitations as a government and of course a structure, and we will get the support internationally and from the private sector jointly to deal with this in a comprehensive way, that at the end of it, when we rebuild, we'll be rebuilding for the future and fixing a lot of what problems there were for the last 60 years.
I just want to respond on the comments around the shelter and the relief supplies. I want to make it clear that prior to the hurricane season, all the municipal corporations meet with the ODPEM and the various agencies. There's a humanitarian committee of the National Disaster Council which meets almost every week. Relief items was placed in all parishes across Jamaica prior to the event. The parishes that are badly affected, all the facilities were destroyed during the hurricane. So it is not that the government did not. We have always placed relief items at strategic points across the country. Montpelier is a massive warehouse in Montego Bay, but access to the facility has been impeded because of the road conditions. And I want to make it abundantly clear that this administration is not incompetent, and we were responsible, we were proactive in preparing the country. Nobody can plan for a Category 1 or a Category 5 hurricane. Nobody can.
Yes, we can.
And I am saying without fear of contradiction that the government was prepared. We provide the necessary notice to the people. We say to the country that this thing is coming, take the necessary precautions. We could not control God's hand.
All right. Thank you. You wanted to add something, Minister Vaz?
No, I just wanted to add, just for clarity, that the first field hospital was delivered to the West yesterday and should be up and running, if not tomorrow. Plus, we have several more that are coming. For water filtration plants, all of those are underway. We have, the world is helping us. Every country across the world and organizations, because they love Jamaica. So we have the support. What we need to do is just channel it and make sure that we maximize the efficiency of the implementation.
All right. Next
wind up the
question.
Patsy
Oh,
them yesterday.
Minister Charles wants to add something quickly to this.
You know?
The questions that came before.
My man did
Just to indicate that the matter of disaster preparedness is something that has to be very strategic. What the Ministry of Labour and Social Security did is one of the examples where we actually, before the hurricane, worked with the JDF to move several of our items out of the warehouse up to Upper Camp to keep them safe. It's one of the reasons why, despite pre-positioning thousands of packages across the country, particularly in St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland and others, we couldn't do all, because you have to contemplate the fact that as a Cat 5, it will actually affect your warehouse and your shelters, as it did for some of the things pre-positioned in Westmoreland, where it was so bad that we lost some of the items. So the reality is we have a very strategic approach, which includes working with our humanitarian assistance partners. We have 6 mobile storage units across the country now from World Food Programme, another 8 on their way, which will make 14. The Food for the Poor all have massive containers that they are strategically positioning in close proximity to the areas that are greatly affected. The Ministry of Labour and Social Security and government are working also to expand our storage and to expand our production of packages, and we have pushed those out in delivery with our partners. We have right now, Minister, a compilation of perhaps more than 40,000 packages when you look on the bulk items that we have that will be available to us over the next 2 to 4 weeks. So I say that to say that it's not just quick response. We do have rapid response, but it's not just quick response. It's strategy towards long-term recovery.
Thank you. I think the mic was right there. Okay.
Right, thank you. Minister Charles, you spoke about, in your presentation, about persons who were hungry. We've heard of persons who are going 2-3 days or more without food. And obviously, the clock is ticking. And for the communities that are marooned, you mentioned 25 communities. Can you give us an appreciation of the timeline within which the government intends to take these relief packages to these persons who desperately need them? That's the first question. In terms of the oversight mechanism, my colleague spoke about a broader framework, but during the COVID pandemic, I remember the government established a special committee of parliament, and I think the people's representatives are very important in this respect. A special committee of parliament was established to provide oversight for the COVID process. So I'm wondering if, without reinventing the wheel, if the government is already considering establishing such a committee where all the stakeholders and all the persons who are involved in the relief effort could be invited to Parliament to speak to the people's representatives and to deal with questions of accountability and the spending of money and so on. And the final question would go to the Minister with responsibility for works.
This is going to blow your mind. Kids can design games instead of playing them. And no, I'm not talking about...
You have spoken extensively about the main corridors and efforts to clear those. But for the areas that are marooned, could you give us an idea as to when you'll be able to make inroads in some of those communities? Thank you very much.
All right, thank you for those questions. Minister Charles, I think you're the first one, food for those that are marooned.
Thank you for that question. I just want to indicate that as Minister McKenzie alluded to, one of the issues that caused and still will impact the delivery of packages is access. And so it's actually why you might have seen, I wouldn't say focus, but perhaps presence in some areas more than others, access and connectivity. That's contrary to what some may believe. Our social workers, the JDF soldiers and partners were out in every parish immediately after, even in parishes where there was no connectivity, and therefore you weren't hearing as much or seeing as much. But obviously, where there is a difficulty in access that impedes the ability to move. We are using airlift. We have the ability through our 429 helicopters to do at least 12 drops and perhaps 2 drops each with the Chinooks and the Blackhawks that we have from the American partners. That's 22 drops in total in terms of airlift. On the ground, the JDF is consistent and have been working to do at least hundreds of drops in terms of packages, depending on the terrain and depending on the unique circumstances for each community that we confront. And it is different in every community, believe me. There's a myriad of situations that we have to confront. What's important is to note that we continue at this stage now to expand beyond just the immediate rapid response to the design of a very carefully calculated distribution channel, which will see us working with partners to make sure that we have consistent support, consistent delivery, consistent channels to get the food, the water, the cleaning supplies, and whatever else is needed to those persons who need it the most.
Thank you very much for that response, and hopefully you got an answer there. The other one was about the main corridors and the Committee of Parliament. Minister Morgan, you want to come for the main corridors, just in terms of the Committee of Parliament? As I said, I missed Cabinet, but there are many options being looked at, and obviously COVID was a great example of how we can do things going forward, and so we've actually been looking back at the
helicopter don't have to land to do air drop. All them need to do is come low enough over the area and let down the food with their rope or their string. Then really, when it comes to supplying food to what they call marooned areas, because oh God, you don't need to land. All you need is to come low enough above the tree, or if there's a clean space, to come lower, drop the food, and go and about your business.
COVID experience to see what worked and what maybe needed to be tweaked. And so Cabinet is discussing what's the best approach for that.
Thank you very much, Dr. Morris Dixon. The first thing I want to say to answer your question is that I think we're at what, day 5 or 6?
6.
We're at day 6 of the disaster. And I want to contextualize what we have done. We've been able to move significant heavy equipment from all across the island and concentrate them between St. Elizabeth and Trelawney. That if you draw a line from Ocherios all the way down to the border of Manchester and St. Elizabeth, we've been able to move front-end loaders, excavators. Not only have we been able to move them, but we have been able to get a lot of the persons who own them to give us them without even a discussion about how much you're going to be paid for it. The second thing we've been able to do is we've been able to create a corridor between Manchester and St. James. So in the first day or two of the hurricane, there was almost no access because of the significant down power lines, down trees, landslides, and so on. So within 2 days, 3 days, we were able to a great extent. By day 2, we had single lane access
but we have to listen.
The entrance of Westmoreland. By day 3 and 4, we had single lane access to Sav. By day 5, we had cut through, and now we have joined the 2 routes, Mobay to Sav, Black River to Sav, because we were coming from both sides. If you think of roads as main arteries, then the off-roads are tributaries. In order to start working on the off-roads, you have to clear the main artery. So as we cleared the main arteries, we started going up into the hills with smaller equipment, because in many cases, a lot of these roads are 8-foot roads. So I can't put a front-end loader. The other issue that we have faced in our recovery is the absence of skilled labor in many cases. So if somebody lost his house, he has no shelter, his family is at risk. Many of those persons are going to be very unwilling to leave their family to go on the road with a power saw to spend 8-9 hours cutting. So one of the challenges we've had is finding people in the various locations, because most of the work is chainsaw work. So while we may have a big heavy duty equipment, we need a lot of men with cutlasses and we need a lot of men with chainsaws. And we've had to be importing men. So for example, because of the crisis in Trelawney in terms of access, the forestry department has found 8 sawmen that will be going into Trelawney tomorrow in 4 vehicles going to different parts to try and cut their way through some of the maroon communities. The other issue you have to think about with maroon communities is the issue of safety. So I'll give you an example. We were removing major debris that was blocking gas trucks from going to Sav yesterday. And we came upon a hillside. I don't remember the exact name of the area, but it is before you reach Ferris. And it's between White House and Ferris. And we saw a big stump which was in the road, huge. And we had the excavator start moving it. And the hill started to come down. And we had to basically leave it. So we were trying to create 2 lanes because we only had about 8 feet or 6 feet across. A tanker trailer could not pass that. And we wanted to create a bigger avenue because it was becoming a bottleneck and creating a traffic jam. And we had to leave it because the engineers now have to come and tell us how unstable this hillside is. Because if that hillside goes, there are houses on top of it where people are living in. So the issue is not just go and clear a road, or there are landslides that we have to contend with, there are cutoffs that we have to contend with, there's labor that we have to find to go into these areas. The size of equipment is also important. But
you've written a book. Congratulations.
Everything Nesta said.
Now you need to let the world know about
Nothing
it.
Nesta explained that I understood.
It's the work that we have to do, and our commitment to the people is that we are going to get it done. We've done a lot of work over the last 6 days in terms of getting access and allowing the recovery teams to go in, but there's still more to be done. And I'll be the first to admit to you that we have not been perfect, but we have been trying our very best with the resources we have. And as more resources come to availability, as more persons in the private sector give us the availability of their equipment, we're going to put those into the system so we can clear more roads. Thank you, Dana.
Thank you. Oh,
Good afternoon. Sashana Small from the Gleaner. Minister, there are reports that no official was present to receive the Venezuelan delegation that brought aid to Jamaica in the aftermath of Hurricane Melissa. Are these claims true? And if so, why was this particular delegation exempted from this standard process?
All right, thank you for that question. And we thank the people of Venezuela for the supplies that were sent to Jamaica. It was a significant amount of supplies that we received, and we thank them very deeply. And it does show us that everywhere, every single part of this world, there are people who are thinking of Jamaica and willing to send us supplies, and so we're very thankful to them for that. In terms of the protocols around receiving foreign delegations, I'll have to ask the Minister of Foreign Affairs. As you would have noted, she has been to almost all of them. Sometimes Minister Vaz has been to some. I've filled in as we are notified. Remember that usually with flights coming in, there is a note through the diplomatic community that we do get, and then that does trigger a set of actions. There may have been some communication lapses there, and I will ask the Minister of Foreign Affairs to talk through what had happened there. But the reality is that we have been very, very thankful for those supplies, and there seems to have been a breakdown in a part of the process. But of course, we are very grateful for all our partners and grateful to Venezuela for what they had sent to us.
I really despise this woman.
Yes.
Good afternoon, Minister Morris Dixon. Giovanni Dennis here from CVM TV. 3 quick questions. One regarding security We've heard reports of persons going into some of these affected areas to offer help, being robbed. Heard about an instance in Holland Bamboo at the weekend, where over 300,000 worth of supplies were robbed from persons offering help. What, if anything, is being done to strengthen law enforcement in these areas
The Jamaica
so that
government will
doesn't
give the
happen again or become
Venezuela
widespread? Two, traffic
each
management.
flight
I've heard a
landing,
voice note
they
from you
never
asking
know
persons
say
not to
it
come in. I've
come or
seen
some
several persons on
breakdown
social
in the
media
in
urging
the
persons not to come
communication
down because of
channel.
how crowded it gets, and a lot of the areas are single lane. But what, from a traffic management JCF perspective, now is being done to better manage the traffic coming in to some of these affected areas? Because clearly moral suasion won't necessarily do that, because people want to see their families, or, as you say, unfortunately, sightsee, because I mentioned I saw persons taking pictures. So what is being done about that? And finally, and perhaps most importantly,
when a flight is going from one country to another, just like the roadways on the ground, you have highways in the air as well. You have to have clearance for airway, and you have to apply for right to land. Those communication you have to do before you lift up half a dot. So Venezuela never just get up, wash their face, and say, "Baps your uncle, things are going down at Jamaica there. Let's jump on a flight and land there because the airport is empty. There's space there. We can just land." Oh, God.
the marooned communities that we're hearing of now, and we heard about Brian yesterday, where at least 6 bodies were taken, including a mother and a child. Each of them have a member of parliament and also a councillor. Are each councillors or members of parliament doing enough and updating through the official channels the authority to say, okay, we haven't heard from this community that's marooned, could you do something or check this out? Because it seems to me that people may not be doing what they ought to do, representatives may not be doing what they ought to do, if after 5 days, as we heard yesterday with Brighton in St. Elizabeth, was marooned for 6 days and bodies were there being decayed. What did the representatives do to notify the first responders or the government where that is concerned?
All right, thank you. Those are 3 very good questions. The first one was in relation to security, and I saw the situation in Holland Bamboo yesterday. There were police. I saw many members of the police force that were there trying to assist with traffic management, but there was just way too many people on the road. And I know you want to see your families. I know, but it really hampered things. As I said yesterday, I was trying to help a Red Cross truck that was trying to get to Westmoreland and also to Black River to get through, and it was almost impossible to get them through. It was so difficult. And this is the Red Cross with supplies, and they had medics also with them, and they couldn't get through because of the traffic. So traffic management is important. We're actually looking.
Why does she talk like that? It's similar to how people read poems or essays. It's a recital. You're not speaking from the heart, you see. If you enter academia or if you enter dictatorship, you don't communicate from the heart. How we are taught to communicate intellectually, it's not from your heart. It's about appeasing to who you're writing to appease, whether the person who is marking your paper or the audience that you want to appeal to. But in academia, like in politics, you don't normally communicate from the heart. So you would then really sound and look awful, especially if you're not good at acting.
Looking in cabinet, and before we left, and as I said, I don't have all of the ending of cabinet, there were discussions around whether or not movement should be restricted at particular times, because we also want to be able to get in, for example, fuel trucks into the communities. And you can't do that with the kind of traffic congestion you have in certain parts. And so that's something that's being looked at if we don't get a better handle on the movement of people. We know that there are many Jamaicans who have just packed up their cars and said, I'm going to go down and I'm going to give people things. And that is.
And they're getting there quicker and faster than you, the government, who have apparatus by Ireland and Sea, drunk crow, dog shit. People from all over Jamaica can get to these marooned communities. The government with all its apparatus still a hop on one tick and a push on bumbo blood clot zimmer frame a come.
Beautiful. It says that it shows the Jamaican spirit. Let's go help them. Sometimes it's not that helpful when so many decide to do it. And that's why it's also good that we heard from Minister Grange about her portal, because people want to help. And so we're now giving you a targeted way to help, and the authorities can pull down lists of persons who are available for particular activities. But the security question is a big one. And the police force is out, the JDF is out, so you're seeing larger contingencies around. And so it is something that I know the JCF and the JDF have been coordinating on, making sure that there is security. And I saw many cars just stop. You see some people on the side and you just want to help. And I saw them stop maybe to give one person, and then immediately the entire community came out and swarmed the car. I saw that today. And so it is, there's a security risk, what we would say to individuals. If you come down with things, stop by a church and give it there, offload it there. Stop by the police station, offload it there. They will get it out to the communities. And also, obviously, now you get an opportunity to volunteer through Minister Grange's portal. Marooned communities, you had asked about whether or not the members of parliament are giving information, and you beat me. I was going to add that into it, that Minister Charles and the work the JDF is doing is dependent on the councillors and the MPs getting the information to Minister Charles. And so the JDF has a list, and that list comes from members of the community. Right now, we've been using the social workers in the network. And remember that in each parish.
Are you understanding that Morris Dixon's saying here? Jesus keeps me near the cross, near a prayer. Miss Dixon is saying here, the responsibility of search and rescue, Army Duns, is down to the MPs and the councillors to get the message to Colonel Charles that that community over there is cut off. In a Jamaica, where that MP or councillor might be also marooned and not have the ability to communicate. Search and rescue. Isn't that your understanding? Or me just a hear voices? Because if the MP and the councillor can't find you and can't get the message to Charles, your goose is cooked. Or you understand that, don't? Your goose, if the MP or the councillor can't get the message to Colonel Charles' last daughter, your goose is cooked, you know. That me I try to tell you, no. So now make sure when you hold up on the fire flare up in the air and ball out, so we cut off over here, so. Let's search and rescue means nothing in this disaster. Or the government, where they find all of these deep holes and highways and hidden areas when they want to vote. No, most of the community, they exist in a disaster. You couldn't make it up for the best horror novel. Even if you're writing a horror novel at the moment, Jamaica would still win the Oscar.
And so we're now giving you a targeted way to help, and the authorities can pull down lists of persons who are available for particular activities. But the security question is a big one. And the police force is out, the JDF is out, so you're seeing larger contingencies around. And so it is something that I know the JCF and the JDF have been coordinating on, making sure that there is security. And I saw many cars just stop. You see some people on the side and you just want to help. And I saw them stop maybe to give one person, and then immediately the entire community came out and swarmed the car. I saw that yesterday. And so there's a security risk, what we would say to individuals. If you come down with things, stop by a church and give it there, offload it there. Stop by the police station, offload it there. They will get it out to the communities. And also, obviously, now you get an opportunity to volunteer through Minister Grange's portal. Marooned communities, you had asked about whether or not the members of parliament are giving information, and you beat me. I was going to add that into it, that Minister Charles and the work the JDF is doing is dependent on the councillors and the MPs getting the information to Minister Charles. And so the JDF has a list, and that list comes from members of the community. Right now, we've been using the social workers in the network. And remember that in each parish has a disaster committee that is chaired by the mayor. Every single parish has that. And so there's a mechanism through which the reports are coming in. If there are MPs or councillors, if you know that there's a community that's marooned, get the information to Minister Charles, because he's coordinating with JDF. Every morning, they do their list of where they're going to do the food drops. We can't do the food drop if we don't know of a community. So it's very important that we continue to feed that information to the relevant individuals.
Television Jamaica. I have two questions.
Sure.
Questions. Going back to the earlier points my colleagues made in regards to aid. And again, having been on the ground myself, I've seen a lot of attention being placed on Black River, and I know that in terms of the access roads, some of the roads are still not clear. But I think what we're not getting is the timeline, because some people are in these communities, they have no electricity, no form of communication, and some people have to get the information to them. So in terms of, you mentioned a list, the timeline, is there a timeline for which the worst hit areas will be receiving aid? Because people would love to know.
Oh, that's the first one, yes.
My second question, I got something earlier. I'm just going to read it verbatim. I was told that in some instances, they have to reduce the amount of packages that they can bring on with the JDF, because some of the ministers want to go down themselves to take photos for Instagram or other forms of social media. Can you confirm whether this is true or it's just propaganda? I just received that as the press conference was going on. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to start with that one, and that does not sound accurate at all, because
Dana, it's what the government does. This government walk and embarrass with the heavy liquor thing. Remember the Roy Chuck on the bread, Dana Dixon? Remember the Prime Minister and the green buns, Dana Dixon?
I know that the JDF planes have been taking things and dropping them, and I know I haven't been on a helicopter. Most of us are driving. I know there were some surveillance activities that took place that the Prime Minister would have done, and that was publicly said, and I would have said where he was going each of those days. I know on the weekend he did take some things on the plane with him, on a helicopter with him, but the JDF drops are a different thing. The JDF drops, it is all JDF. And JDF goes in the morning, they liaise with Ministry of Labour and Social Security, they decide which areas they go. If they go today, they may not go tomorrow. They may go 2 days after. And so we are getting aid out to the marooned communities, and the ministers are not using the aid drop planes. That's not the case. In terms of timelines, I know that's a key.
That's why on a problem is getting the road clear so no can go by foot, go get on a photo apps. That's why no want to do it by ear. Can one go on foot, go get on a photo apps.
Question. I saw a lot of people operating, and there are a lot of entities operating to get food. The real concern, I think, in any area that's accessible, we're getting the aid in now. But it's the marooned ones, which is why we need to make sure we have every marooned community on Minister Charles's list, so JDF is doing deliveries to them. Minister.
Thank you, Minister. At a time like this, we have to remain focused as a country.
Listen to Sheila now.
There are going to be many persons who will use the opportunity to divert our attention to things that are not truly relevant. But I can tell you, as one of the ministers working directly with JDF, I can tell you that every effort, every single sweat and effort is being made to get the resources to the persons who are marooned and to get every single food, water, tarpaulin, and resource to those who need it the most. There is no country, no developed country right now, no country in the world that could suffer what we have suffered and respond.
First of all, Colonel Charles, developed country would have living in a hurricane zone, would have designed shelters. All right? Developed country, Colonel Charles, living in a hurricane zone, having had so much hurricane and tropical storm, would have mastered the bomber blood clot relief and recovery by now. Pussy! The amount of time we don't deal with this, we should have mastered it by now.
In 1 day or 1 week. I want to applaud the JDF. I want to applaud the JCF, the Fire Brigade. I want to applaud all of the officers and employees and volunteers in my own ministry in Westmoreland. Several of my staff members have lost their home, lost their roof, couldn't come to work. In St. James, you have Miss Loas, who stayed on the second floor and watched her car wash away. Where was she yesterday? She was at the Bogue Industrial Estate, bending down, packing packages, working with me to get back into Catherine Hall in Water Green to deliver those packages to elderly and to others, while she and her family also need. I want to give you some details. Yesterday, we went into Compton, St. Elizabeth, this is JDF, Spring Garden, Trelawney, and Darlington in a 2-in-1 mission, Shady Grove. Today, we went into Darliston in Westmoreland, West Haven in Hanover, again with airlift missions. We completed the delivery of care packages to 97 disabled children. 1 Medivac was done for 3 elderly patients with hypertension and diabetes. And we also completed more care package drop-offs in other communities, Maroontown, Adelphi, Jacksontown, Lime Tree. And again, as I said to you, in terms of the time, it's very difficult. I understand the question. It's a question it's a very good question, because the entire country wants to know, how fast can we do this? Let's appreciate that because of the circumstances, because this is a situation that you could never truly forecast. It depends on several variables.
Listen, people, you see between these charities and these influencers, thank God for them, St. Elizabeth people would have perished for hunger and thirst. All you hear them are going like them are prioritize St. Elizabeth people only in the media with nice. Because Flight Green, and Sunday my community is Flight Green and he go turn up with KFC. And let me tell you, Jamaica people, don't accept nothing from the Bill Gates Foundation. If you don't accept anything from Bill Gates, God go with you. So not because you hear them call up St. Elizabeth name in the media, so you know, go so how you hear them go on like them prioritize St. Elizabeth. St. Elizabeth hungry and naked and thirsty. Don't believe them. It's a distraction. Not much now going down there. Between the charity and the influence of them. People done dead for hunger at St. Elizabeth. We arranged food for St. Catherine, St. Elizabeth before the government. The government will have Jamaica. The government will have speedboat, the fire brigade and the what's you might call it? Fire brigade and Coast Guard have boat. Coast Guard have helicopter. Coast Guard have speedboat and lifeboat. Police have bike in a Jamaica, but when they go up on bike and put the AK on them back. Police can stay up on road and tap you and take your bicycle. A disaster. Because I need to get in that area. So the fuck that the government is talking, nothing, no go so. Ask anybody we go down at St. Elizabeth think, Westmoreland think, dead cow, dead dog, dead goat, dead under Juliet, dead under Babsy, dead under Holness, the whole of it lay down in a water down there. And when Dr. Dawes talk about the pending public health disaster looming, Darrell Vaz run out to attack. Everybody run out to attack. You hear the government have no concern about dead body? Human or animal. Do you hear in a disaster, in a flood, do you hear the government have any concern of dead bodies, human or animal? Hey, Jamaica. Lord God Almighty. Lord God Almighty. Jamaica. Jamaica. Lord, all when we in the fire. Boy, right here now, you know when you're boiling a crab, it's not good to throw the crab in a pot of boiling water. You put the crab in a pot of cold water, put the crab on the fire, and the crab will have a slow boil and a slow death. So the crab will not even react to that, you see, because the heat comes slowly, slowly, until you almost as it is die of natural causes. Jesus Christ.
And the duration of completing a drop-off or of providing, delivering packages will depend heavily on the assets, on the lift capability. I'll give you an example. Yesterday, while we wanted to do additional lifts, weather did not permit because it is a very, very dangerous operation. So I say that to say that the country can be at ease in knowing that every effort is being made by all of our partners to make sure that we put full resources focused on the people who need it.
Which parishes you have the maroon communities? Thank you.
I didn't hear you.
Which parishes you have the maroon communities?
Primarily Westmoreland, St. Elizabeth, St. James. I believe there are also in Trelawney, and probably one in Hanover. And most of our airlifts so far have taken place in Westmoreland.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Mahiri Stewart, Nationwide News.
Mahiri, you realize you have company today.
Afternoon. So my question regards the support Jamaica.gov JM link. In terms of that being the official channel for persons to send donations to the government in order to aid relief efforts, is there any update the country can get in terms of how much has been donated to that link? And on top of that, in terms of transparency, to prevent us from having to ask the question in the future, is it possible for that total to be placed on the website so that persons donating can be aware of how much is already there?
Sure, and that is going to be done. I got some questions online from regular Jamaicans, and so I'm supposed to be giving updates here, and we're trying to put it online. I'm just trying to find the last number that I got, and it was 10:33 last night. We were at 728,000 US and 38 million Jamaican. So I think we're probably approaching 900,000 US. So we're getting to the $1 million mark on that site.
Good morning, everyone. Jerome Williams from the Jamaica Observer.
Good morning.
Good evening, I'm so sorry. One question.
Yes.
On the road, on the ground, especially in Westmoreland,
Yeah.
there are a lot of people, residents living there, who are complaining that they're living in areas where houses near them have dead bodies decaying at the moment, and this has been the case since the hurricane has hit. The question is, has there been any discussion of a strategy to help to deal with this situation? What advice would be given to people living in these areas who are worried about health, safety, and stuff like that?
It is a health and safety question, but it's also a deeply emotional and psychological thing to know that their body is just lying there. I mean, just thinking about it is really, really painful. And so the JCF, working with the JDF, because sometimes the bodies are in those same marooned communities. So what the JDF has been doing, sometimes they've had to go in via a helicopter to retrieve the bodies. So as soon as we get the...
Can somebody pay me a penny for every time they use the word marooned? You know what a rich man know? I'd be rich by now. Since burial, and every one of the government apparatus and brataratus come out. These government trannies and patsies.
Indication that there are bodies, the JCF and the JDF will coordinate. Obviously, the JCF will do some quick analysis to find out, was this really as a part of the hurricane, or was this some other nefarious activity that took place? And so they are working, the JDF uses the body bags they have, and they've been going out, and it's been a very painful process. But once we are aware of it, it is passed on to the JCF and the JDF. And if it's a marooned area, if it's not a marooned area, the JCF can easily just go in and retrieve the bodies. But in marooned areas, that's where the issue is. We have to find somewhere to land. First, we need to know about it. And then we need to find somewhere to land the helicopter so that we can retrieve the bodies. And a lot of the ones you would have heard that we have announced, those painful numbers, were actually retrieved by the JDF using helicopters. All right, are there any other questions?
Yeah.
Back at them again, listen here.
Answered. I'm going to repeat them and add two new ones. There has been an obvious and concerning difference in the immediacy of response to Westmoreland as compared to St. Elizabeth. I'm asking why, and with the absolute respect, saying that everybody is the same isn't a response to that concern. Secondly, the response that warehouses were pre-positioned before the hurricane doesn't answer my question as to the slowness of the response once the hurricane had passed in getting in aid, in putting in warehouses or whatever it takes, as well as in providing shelter and or evacuation. So those questions have been answered. And then two new ones. One, I'm not hearing an acknowledgement of the fact that there is a crisis in terms of fuel in Western Jamaica, and whether there is some kind of special initiative to deal with that situation. Like all of my colleagues, I've been in the field. I was in South yesterday, in Westmoreland yesterday, saw Senator. The gas stations are mobbed with individuals with containers as well as with long lines of cars. You can't get no gas until you basically reach back to Kingston. I'm not hearing a specific initiative to address that problem. And finally, I am not hearing any indication of what sounds like a bipartisan effort to deal with this issue. The government, just from looking on, seems to have almost entirely shut out the opposition, notwithstanding your comment about an informal conversation over the phone with the spokesman on education minister. We are not hearing or seeing what appears to be a bipartisan effort to deal with this crisis.
All right, thank you for the questions. I'm going to start with that last one on the bipartisan effort. This has to be an all of Jamaica effort, and I think the Prime Minister has not acknowledged that. On the Saturday before the hurricane came, the Prime Minister invited the Leader of the Opposition to Jamaica House to be briefed. He was briefed by Ministry of Labour, was briefed by Evan Thompson. They got several individuals from government briefing on the preparations for the hurricane. A lot of questions were asked. Some suggestions were made in the meeting, and the government took those on board. And I think that's an important signal of intent to have the opposition be a part of the activities. I know that the Leader of the Opposition is in contact with the Prime Minister on a daily basis. I know that that is happening. And so this notion that we're not going to be bipartisan is not correct. We're the government. We have to do what we need to do, and we have to govern. But we also need to say this is a Jamaica effort. You have the church here. We have the opposition that we have said is going to be a part of the oversight body. We have had to be working through a lot of the MPs in order to get aid out. They're very important partners in this. Minister Charles is constantly on the phone with them. Darrell Vaz is constantly on the phone with them. So there is a channel that is open to the opposition, and the opposition is feeding into it. And so we are going to, in our rebuilding, we're going to have everybody on board. The private sector, the opposition is going to be important, and on a sectoral basis, we're going to also have to work with the opposition. And I think that is going to be very clear for everyone to see. And it's not just me, it is the entire
asshole. The government and the opposition should be working already. Cayman set the tone, you piece of shit. When Cayman came to Jamaica just after the hurricane, it's the government and the opposition came united. You fucking piece of shit. You all make me angry. Calm yourself down.
Entire government. You spoke about the slowness of the response, the perceived slowness. And you know, the reality is that this was a cat fev. And I'll tell you from my experience being at ODPEM and doing the briefings every single day. Every day, the path shifted. We were expecting it to enter maybe closer to Kingston, then it shifted to maybe Clarendon, then it shifted to maybe closer to Mandeville, and then as it kept going.
That's why the entire country should have been prepared. Rather than Nestor Morgan is saying we're not putting in support and resources in places like Montego Bay because it's not expected to be hit there, and Montego Bay get a decent well hitting out of it. Only deliberately shut us out. It started from in Parliament. It was a deliberate shutdown, and the deliberate shutdown of us in this disaster continue.
West, we had those who were praying, oh my goodness, it looks like it's going to miss Jamaica. And then, you know, as it got closer on the morning, and remember the rain started from before, we saw where it was going to probably be parity. And we said, everybody who's in that path, you need to move out of that path. It wasn't until in the morning of the storm that we really had a clearer picture of what this hurricane was doing. This hurricane was not a normal hurricane. In terms of its movement, in terms of it just stalking Jamaica for days, it was not normal. And so it entered where we were not necessarily expecting. And if you go back and look at the reports, you will see that the path shifted quite a bit in the last day in terms of where it would enter Jamaica, and where were people even saying maybe it's not going to hit Jamaica. And so the warehouses that were there in that path And even if you go to the day before, even if you look at some of the models, they said Jamaica, it would weaken before it made landfall in Jamaica.
Lie.
That was being reported by the scientists.
Lie.
But it did not weaken. It got stronger right before it came to Jamaica. So that category 5 devastation, 185 miles an hour wind, that is really, really.
Didn't Melissa get to a boat after Melissa turned into Jamaica direction on the boat Sunday? Didn't Melissa from early on Monday develop into a category 5? Melissa start chuck water upon Jamaica from Monday to Monday night. Melissa chuck wind and water upon Jamaica. And then Tuesday morning, in hit land. But for Melissa turn, once Melissa turn, Melissa developed into a category 5. For somebody know what Dana Dixon talk about?
Hard for anyone to plan for. And so the government has had to do what it can do in order to provide the support as quickly as possible. Given our terrain, we're not a flat country, we have mountains, we have rivers. And remember, this hurricane didn't just come with wind, it came with record rainfall, so we had flooding. And so the first thing we have to do in terms of getting to the communities is to open the roads, and that's what Minister Morgan's focus was on. And then after that, it was working with all of our aid agencies and partners to get them into Jamaica, to help them to support us, because they have the international expertise and goods to help us. And so we've done it as quickly as we can. Now, the marooned communities are really the big concern. And we are doing a lot now that we have all the helicopters from JDF and we have from our international partners, we are able to do more food drops than we could before. So there's a lot that has happened, and I want you to talk about fuel too. The fuel one, I'm sorry Minister Vaz had to leave because we were talking about fuel just now.
Minister Vaz has been on my case.
Introducing the new slots. Out now, Betfair Casino.
About since we started clearing. The first priority of access is to create access so that we can reach vulnerable persons, meaning emergency services, whether it be ambulances, whether it be first responders and so on. So our first priority was not to get heavy duty tankers into Black River or getting it into Savannah and Lamar. So the first priority was single lane access so that vehicles, SUVs, so on, and people walk foot can go through. That was a very difficult task, especially going through Bamboo Avenue. I don't know if you remember, we had the JDF in there, we had the NWA in there, we had people with cutlasses, we had people intertwined. Bamboo is not something that I can just put a backhoe in and push away, because it's very difficult. So we got through Bamboo Avenue, then we went to places like Middle Quarters, where all the light poles were on the ground, all the trees were on the ground. So we had to cut through that. We had people at Black River Hospital. JDF had to start coming. Let me give you an example. All the doctors at Black River Hospital lost their housing because they lived in a community beside the hospital. So the first responders that you had situated in the space who would serve not just Black River but also Westmoreland, because the other hospital would be in Sav, so you have hospital in Black River, hospital in Sav, and people in between go to each. So our first priority was to provide access to rescue those people. After we did that first single lane rescue, and the NWA was able to create a path to Savannah Lamar incrementally. So the first major town we went to, which is maybe why people perceive that there is bias, is Black River, because Black River is on its way. So we're coming from Montego Bay, we're coming from Manchester. We reach Black River first. We see the damage there. That's the first thing that comes out into the public, right? So everybody says Black River is destroyed. Nobody has yet been able to go to Westmoreland because all the roads are blocked. And even flying over, you would not see the full damage because there's no communication. I did not know the extent of Westmoreland's damage until we were able to get people in and get JDF to fly over Westmoreland. We still haven't reached the tanker issue yet. It is only over the last 2 days that we've been able to confidently tell the gasoline haulage contractors that it is now
Diana can sing, can't she?
safe for you to drive to Savannah Lamar. Because they said they're not driving on the...
It always irritates me when people go the long route round and call it the Savannah Lamar, the tight tongue bit. For us, it has always been Savlamar. For us in St. Elizabeth, you would never hear us with this Valanamar tight tongue galangin. It's for us, it's Sav or Savlamar. Simple.
In a JPS light pole. So we had to work with JPS to remove those light poles. They are not going to drive against anything that could puncture their tanks. So I went yesterday with heavy equipment behind me. Not because they...
Estina, there is access to parity from about Melissa come Tuesday. You could access parity from Wednesday. There is a guy in Pondside who have a bulldozer, backhoe, whatever you call them. Parity people have their chainsaw that they bought in Beryl. When my brother called us on, it was either Wednesday or Thursday. No, I think a Thursday my brother called me. But when my brother called us on Thursday, they had access from Black River to parity by driving. Even though there's road breakage in one section of the community, if you were to go in from what we call Crane Road, where like the politician them and rich people had them span. There's breakage, so you can't use this or go into parity. But you can go around what is called Darkest. You can access it from Pondside. You can access it from Barbara Hall coming down Williams Field, Bruce's Field, Hopewell, Fort Charles, all the way down to Hilltop Parity. Party people have access to travel all the way to Mountainside from like Thursday. So when you hear they keep going on about people's being marooned and all of that, yes, there are some communities that them road bust up, but a lot of the communities in Jamaica have more than one access. A lot of this marooned argument where you hear them a push pan with don't necessarily go so. And if the community is marooned on ground, we have capability to enter by other means.
NWA is not doing a good job, but because I needed to be confident to convince the ministry that, listen, we can take the tankers now. The other point is, Dion, some of the gas stations are destroyed. The gas station on the coast in Black River does not exist anymore. The only gas station that exists in Black River is the one, that is not in the town. It's on the outskirts of the town, right? The other gas station.
Nesta, it's about half mile out of the town. It's a gas station still in Black River, a place where everybody used to walk from the Adventist Church of Black River, Nesta Morgan, the gas station, the right side of Independence Park. Anybody who know Black River? The next available gas station where Nesta Morgan attack is right next to Independence Park in Black River. So it's not like it's a gas station far outside of Black River. It's Independence Park in the same Black River. Just about probably less than half a mile out of the town. Less than half a mile out of the town. To be Sharon, you're still there? Independence Park, less than half a mile out of the town, for those of you who know Black River. So a lot of what them attack don't necessarily go so.
Is not in a good condition. The gas station in Westmoreland is also destroyed. So the issue you're having is not just the availability of bringing in gas into the community, but also where are you going to safely store that gas? And that's a medium-term problem because you can't just send a tanker in there and park it on the side of the road and say, come and buy some gas. When we were driving through yesterday, we had full tanks of gas. And it was not until we reached Boot in St. Anne that we found a gas station that was open late. Yes, there were other gas stations that we heard were open in the day, but because of the nature of what has happened, because of the lack of electricity that is typical for the entire section of the island, a lot of gas stations are closed early. So those are things that we're going to have to work with. But what I can confidently say now is that for the gas stations that are able to take fuel, the retailers, the haulage contractors are now willing to traverse that area. They weren't confident to travel through Black River, go to Sav before yesterday because there were still impediments on the road. I hope that explains the issue why gas was so short or has been short. Thank you.
And I'll note that Minister Vaz has a proposal in terms of making things much easier there. And also that was one of the reasons where we were thinking about
Independence Park, Sharon, the gas station side of Independence Park. Independence Park, no less than about half a mile out of the town. So I don't know when they start talk like how far it there.
about whether or not we needed to maybe restrict some movement maybe in the night, late in the night, so that the fuel trucks can actually go through late in the night and actually get to refuel where the gas stations are okay. All right, so I know it's been a long day. We're at 5:47 p.m. Thank you. And so as we end,
I had to listen to that press briefing yesterday because Deanne Jackson Miller turned up and she asked some very important question which make the government became defensive. The aid package, what them talk, the airdrop, what them talk about, there's other airdrop in Westmoreland. Everybody, one thing I'm glad that the international circus of media is also in Jamaica. I wonder if the international media is PNP as well.
Seeing here in the parish of Westmoreland,
the international media is observing the inadequacies and the incompetencies of government. They are speaking about it. I wonder if international media come here, come get in our politics and turn PNP. Because as soon as you open your mouth and ask any question, you're a dirty, nasty comrade. As soon as you open your mouth and ask any question, it's because you're a nasty, dirty comrade. If you don't go along with the government's misery heaped up on the people, is because you're a nasty, dirty comrade.
Seeing here in the parish of Westmoreland for the first time the arrival of limited amounts of aid. It's food, it's water, it's products like bleach, all of which are needed, but it's just nowhere near enough. This strikingly is a private donation coming out of Kingston. There's still incredibly no sign of aid or support from the Jamaican government or indeed from international organizations either. So this in no way is enough. It needs to be scaled up, it needs to be mobilized here quickly. We've just come from communities up in the hills where people are injured and needing help. We've seen people with deep cuts and gashes, and they say they have no medical facilities to turn to. Everything up there has been destroyed. So I would judge right now that the needs in Western Jamaica are perhaps greater than ever before. At the moment, it is literally neighbour helping neighbours with the storm. But now comes the much more important task of infrastructure. Well, we're seeing.
All the government does not understand what we're talking about. Cut the bureaucracy and bring in mass relief to the people. Only the government is
Aerial Recovery giving you our morning update. We are coming from Billy's Gospel Church in Billy's Bay. This is in Treasure Bay down here in the southern part of Jamaica. We're heading west. What I wanted to stress to you guys is we were able to make it from Kingston all the way here to Treasure Bay and now to Billy's Bay this morning. It took about 6 hours, but the roads are traversable. You can get from Kingston to here and from here back if need be. If you get into any sort of situations, ask the locals, they'll help you out. But these things are open. Water needs to be out here. Food's starting to run out. The big thing right now is energy. If we can get some generators out here, it's a lack of communication. When we sit the ground here, a lot of it's like you absolutely can't go there. You can't go there. We're going out, we're running these routes, we're scouting them. There are people.
This is what the Jamaican government is making people to believe, that you cannot get access to some of these areas. But I'm glad the children of Jesus is in Jamaica on this issue. And it's not just the PNP they call us or saying that. The children of Jesus, who everybody listens to and believe, is observing and is saying exactly that. We got here. Private charities got here. The government is nowhere to be seen.
Aerial Recovery giving you our morning update. We are coming from Billy's Gospel Church in Billy's Bay. This is in Treasure Bay down here in the southern part of Jamaica and west. What I wanted to stress to you guys is we were able to make it from Kingston all the way here to Treasure Bay and out of Billy's Bay this morning. It took.
Listen, my peeps. It's most St. Elizabeth you could have access on Wednesday, Thursday. Most of St. Elizabeth you could have accessed from Wednesday, Thursday. The people of St. Elizabeth cleaned up the roads. The only little blockage that hampered people right now is down light poles and down the breakaway in the road that affect one section of the community, but you can still access the community from the other end, and the cut-off lot can still access them from the Black River end, or you can access them by sea. This propaganda that the government is spreading, the narrative we hear the government around don't necessarily go so. The governmentalist people die from diseases after the effects of the hurricane. It's simple. The prioritization where you see them put on St. Elizabeth is only in the media. It's not by resources. It's not by resources, my peeps. Don't believe them. It's just making noise in the media. You know, see, when Shaggy reached down there with resources, the Minister of Agriculture and MP for Southwest St. Elizabeth go take picture with Shaggy. And he never turn up until Sunday with KFC when Beryl done found where they me hear says some of the people them in my constituency as if like Green can come kiss my ass.
Aerial Recovery giving you our morning update. We are coming from Billy's Gospel Church in Billy's Bay. This is in Treasure Bay down here in the southern part of Jamaica. We're heading west. What I wanted to stress to you guys is we were able to make it from Kingston all the way here to Treasure Bay and now to Billy's Bay this morning. It took about 6 hours, but the roads are traversable. You can get from Kingston to here and from here back if need be. If you get into any sort of situations, ask the locals, they'll help you out. But these things are open. Water needs to be out here. Food's starting to run out. The big thing right now is energy. If we can get some generators out here, it's a lack of communication. When we first hit the ground here, a lot of it's like you absolutely can't go there, but you can go there. So we're going out, we're running these routes, we're scouting them. There are people out here that are diabetic that are running out of their medicine. So I'm telling you, start running stuff out this direction and let's get this aid going and get this rebuilding as quickly, recovery as quickly as we possibly can. So please continue to follow us. I'll keep sending you updates today on routes as you can get in and out of here. And as you can, support our mission, please. Support other great organizations like Global Empowerment Mission that are out here. Please support them because they're doing good work on the ground. We are out here helping the people of Jamaica. It's our pleasure, and it's such a beautiful country with beautiful people. And let's get them back to 100%.
We'll take a short break. And when we come back, we will look at raw emotions or party politics.
Oh, thy peace, God of my salvation, because the mouth of the sinful and wicked is open. Rastafari. Come with I. Rastaman throw one stone, and it break a bad feeling to all wicked men. Not a people there. Make a man throw one stone, and it bring a bad feeling to all wicked men. Only when man like Marcus Garvey speak, wicked men would I hear. Hear not hear. Instead of that, they only sit aside and rub and cheat, and not press the poor. Make up what I seen to. Make a man throw one stone, and they bring a bad feeling to all wicked men. Oh, what a plan. Make a man throw one stone, and they bring a bad feeling to all wicked men. My favorite part, if Rasta make a progressive move, wicked men are red. How they want to see the day them can sell out Rasta and sell it out and sell out Babylon. They give man throw one stone, and they bring a bad feeling to all wicked men.
Thank you very much for holding on and welcome back. We saw yesterday where the opposition came to us with a press conference. Zakila just told us that I will not follow the dictates of the government that will leave my people to suffer and leave my people at a disadvantage. So I will not follow the dictates of the government. I will go ahead and make preparation to alleviate the disaster, some of the disaster, the effects of the disaster around them. We saw where Nikita Burchell broke down, and we later saw a video from Ian Hales breaking down as well as to the treatment, the lack of support, and what you could almost call the political sabotage and the human sabotage by the Jamaica Labour Party up on the people of our country, given the disaster. They are being criticized on social media as using their tears to play politics. I don't know where we're going, Jamaica, but what I'm getting from members of the Jamaica Labour Party is that we must just suffer the fuck silently. Shut the fuck up and suffer silently. That's all I'm getting. I'm not getting anything else other than shut up and suffer in silence.
We're not asking because we are greedy. We're asking because the collaboration and the coordination on the ground is not reaching our people in South St. James. When I'm able to bring 2 bags of food like I did last night to the school at Malden High, they were not able to make breakfast this morning because it could only last 1 day. I'm asking you to help us to airlift some food into the communities, to get the sick people out of the homes and into the hospital. We have some pregnant mothers we were able to get to the hospital at Cornwall Regional just yesterday. Her baby was not moving anymore in her belly, right? We have an urgent need in South St. James, and I know everybody is trying. All I'm asking is don't forget South St. James in all of this, because we are proud farmers and we want to get back with our lives, but we need the donations to come to us too. We don't want to stay left behind because we're...
If the effects of the hurricane does not tore you up inside out, even as a natural disaster, but given that the Americans told us we have the ability to create a Category 5 hurricane, and Andrew Holness told us that we want to build a new city in St. Elizabeth, and we want to develop St. Elizabeth South Coast tourism. And just incidentally, or by chance, a Category 5 hurricane, which Florida University has the science and the capability to create, just devastate that very township and the coastline which the Prime Minister wants to build his city and South Coast tourism. If this doesn't tore you up inside, then you can vacate and live in the jungle and go do the jungle life. But us human down here, we don't have to be in it to cry. Particular people like me who my community and my township was hit by the eye, what they all now carefully call ground zero. The word ground zero should tell you demolition. It's what ground zero means. Demolition. It is why the Minister of Information is telling you that the panel that the Prime Minister will convene will look at whether us in Parity or from Parity to Cheddar Beach can rebuild on the coastline, or we will have to build otherwise. Internally displaced people. It's similar to being a refugee. It's just that it's in your own country. So we don't call it refugee. It's called internal displaced people, is what has been threatened to the people of Southwest St. Elizabeth at the moment. Because of this, them earmark the UDC say, yes, sir, of all the requisite, them of beachfront, them of river, them of a plush agricultural legacy, they have a plush marine legacy, and all that. So all the prerequisites are here. It's a historical town. The town that brought electricity to the Western Hemisphere.
You know, I'm driving my car and I have a stop. I mean, and you know, this thing happened for days now. And I mean, you drive and you see some people lose everything. Just everything. And you know, you're out here every day and you don't know what to do sometimes, but you have to give everybody hope, and hope that Jamaica is listening, and hope that everybody understand that, you know, I've never seen sufferation like this before. And, you know, I pray, but, you know, you ask God sometimes why stuff like this happens. And, you know, I've been on ground zero since day one this happened, and, you know, it's the level of devastation that I've seen in Westmoreland. I've never seen it before. And you have to, citizens are engaging you, and you have to, everybody just want hope, and I don't know. I don't know how we're going to get through this, but we're going to try, and I'm going to try. You know, it is sad. It's really sad.
Right. Let me answer. This photograph pains me. A picture said many words, and this photograph pains me because it is sending so many messages. To see the Chinaman in the supermarket behind the grill with Jamaicans there almost begging to buy food. Doesn't it scare you how quick it has turned for us? Doesn't scare you how quick it has turned for us as a people? They say, though, it is politics being played. Even when we're dying. Even when we're dying for hunger. You have Dr. Jankro. Where's the video with Dr. Dawes? You have Dr. Jankro, not a word on the public health, the looming public health disaster. And because Dr. Dawes rightly has concern. Marcia Thomas and Mary, thank you very much for your donation. Thank you so much. I forgot to thank you. Hold on there. I need to get the Dr. Dawes video, because this is one of the other rants that the Jamaica Labour Party is on as well. Because the government, we're not hearing of any public health concern from the government in relation to the dead, the carcasses around the country, human and animal. No concern from the government. And when Dr. Dawes raised the concern, Dr. Dawes is being criticized.
After the Haitian earthquake, there was a rise in cholera that was brought in by relief workers. We don't know if relief workers are coming in with other diseases as well. And we have an incubator now of persons who are living outdoors. They're prone to respiratory conditions, and they are prone to gastroenteritis, as well as mosquito-borne diseases.
Now, to answer Coral Lee's question, the town of Black River, as the town itself, that's now controlled by parish council. My greater problem is the people of Lagwood, the people of Jungle, and the people, the whole stretch of Parity Beach, possible all the way up to Treasure Beach. We are the ones who are in the line of fire because we're the ones who are sitting in the way of the expansion of the city and building of their South Coast tourism. So already the township, all of that are for the government. Them knock down all parish church because parish church can put up decent structure. Them are going to redesign the town. So the town itself, parish council and UDC take ownership of that the land there already. Any one of them people there, when did a business place in a Black River, oopsie daisy, you're not on a land spot there so anymore. My greater problem is the people who live in and around the town, particularly Lagwood and Jungle. Those people are at high risk of the town's expansion, as well as the people from Parity to Treasure Beach when it comes to developing their South Coast tourism. And we were the ones who them even take out our dead people out of them grave. Yeah, all with dead people them they attack down there. Trust me. All with dead them attack. But this little boy who they say is the best MP Southwest St. Elizabeth has ever seen. Flight Green, no have no time for nobody right now, you hear? Ask yourself the question. When the UDC recommend St. Elizabeth for the new parish, what was the land allocation? And what was the geography of the city that the UDC recommend to the Prime Minister? Barring blasting from Cheddar Beach to Black River, to demolish it and restructure it. You know, you're Dana Dixon say, them have to go look if it's okay, if we can rebuild back on the coastline, or we have to build somewhere else. Sharpen on a machete, and whatever else you can pull out and aisle up and get it fixed. You know I'm going to need it. Anyway, thank you all for being here this morning on Global TV. Lovely to have your support as all. I mean, I want to hear nobody talk, say Jamaica is on the road to Haiti, you know. The new narrative is we have finally caught up with Haiti. I don't want to hear nobody walk and talk, say Jamaica is on the road to Haiti. The narrative is we have finally caught up with them. Do what you will with your machetes. If the private sector them turn up, do what you will with them. We must get back into the mentality of the days of slavery, where the least little chance we get, we set fire to the plantation. Thank you very much for being here with us this morning. Lovely to have your support as always. Join us back this evening if the blood pressure not leak way out, because we owe this step. Hey, me not think me can't watch the government, even though me want to know, you know. But me don't know if we can tolerate the government and the nonsense any longer, you know. Me honestly don't know. But then again, if me don't watch the fuckery, how me get to know the lion story if you can't tell us say about the lion story them? No wonder why this singer say it hard, it hard, it hard. Anyway, remember say COVID was also a disaster. Hey, and the government collect fan chin mat hagan dog. I'll know we know hear gunfire about it. Andrew Holness. Jamaicans are going to chop you up for this blood clot, you know. Because them endure and they see come. And they sit there, see them taxpayer money paid it. Andrew Holness, your head. Andrew Holness, your head.
Oh, thy peace, God of my salvation, because the mouth of the sinful and wicked is open. Rastafari. Come and I, Rastaman throw one stone, and it bring a bad feeling to all wicked men. Not a people there. Make a man throw one stone, and it bring a bad feeling to all wicked men. Only when man like Marcus Garvey speak, wicked men would I hear. Hear now hear. Instead of that, they only sit aside and rob and cheat, and not first and four. Make up what I seen to make him a throw and stone, and they bring a bad feeling to all wicked men. Oh, what a plan! Make him a throw and stone, and they bring a bad feeling to all wicked men. So, my favorite part, if Rasta make a progressive move, wicked men are red. How they want to see the day them can sell out Rasta and sell it out. I sell out Babylon. They give man show and stone, and they bring a bad feeling to all wicked men. They give man show and stone, and it bring a bad feeling to all wicked men. If Rasta make a progressive move, wicked men are red. How they want to see the dead and can sell out Rasta. I sell out, I sell out Babylon. Just stop on the Friday. You might go and stone, and it bring a bad feeling to all wicked men. Oh, what a black thing, you might go and stone, and it bring a bad feeling to all wicked men. You have eyes to see, let him see. You have ears to hear, let them hear.
We're aware of the cat ban and the calf ban as well. At two ban them have cat and calf.
President Mandela was in prison for 20 odd years. And he leave from the prison and take the seat of the president. Stone one. him and throw one stone, and it bring a bad feeling to all wicked men. I want a black, make him and throw one stone, and it bring a bad feeling to all wicked men. Rasta man throw one stone, and it bring a bad feeling to all wicked men.
If you don't like missing out on the latest shows but still enjoy classic hits, then Global TV Group 358 is your perfect match. Global TV Group 358 isn't just another channel, it's your ultimate TV experience. From breaking news to binge-worthy dramas and timeless classics, we've got it all. Our unique blend of original content and global favorites means there's something for everyone. And guess what? With GTVG's seamless streaming, you can watch anywhere, anytime. Plus, our interactive features let you be part of the action. So, whether you're a seasoned binge watcher or a casual viewer, Global TV Group 358 is here to keep you entertained day and night. Don't just watch TV, experience it with Global TV Group 358. Subscribe now and never miss a moment.